Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the bell.
Yo, be a father. If not, why bother, son? A boy can make them, but a man can raise one. Be a father to your child. Be a father to your child.
Welcome back.
Let me know if you
This
hear
is
all kinds
NPR.
of crazy noises because I have my window open. We actually have some nice weather in Miami today.
Sound like my spot with the planes flying by.
Yeah. Well, I do have an airport close by.
Oh, okay.
For my sake, can we not talk about weather? Especially, both of you motherfuckers.
It's like 65 degrees, something like that.
We're just gonna keep talking. About it.
Nice. Yeah, I got a hoodie on, which we never get to rock in Miami.
Thanks, guys.
Nice. It's nice.
Yeah, it's real nice. So how we doing, y'all?
We're doing good, man.
Well, I have a breakthrough in my fatherhood story. So we finally made room. Well, took everything out of the room that is supposed to be for the baby. That was my DJ / studio room. Mm-hmm. Got everything out of there because I got a space down the street. And yeah, last night was the second night that she slept in that room, and and we moved everything out of our room, mostly everything, into her room. And I'll tell you right now, it's amazing. Amazing.
Did she sleep?
Whole night?
She slept through?
Yeah, I mean, look, props to my girl because she's really the one that takes on the night duty full-fledged, So she still, if she hears something, she'll get up. We still have the monitor, and she'll get up. She's like a firefighter. She hears anything, she jumps up, runs to the room. But yeah, she sleeps she sleeps a good solid maybe 4 or 5 hours. Solid. It might get up because maybe you need to change a diaper, and then something like that.
She didn't seem to have a problem though being in the room by herself or any of that kind of stuff.
I thought she might, but no. We had my father and his wife. They gifted us a crib,
right?
That I built over the weekend. Me and my girl built it, and it's a big wooden crib. And then we put she's been sleeping in the bassinet, but one of those like pillows that kind of comfort her.
Yeah.
And we just ordered one that's larger because she already outgrew it. But we put that pillow in the crib, so she still felt the same, at least snug the same way, and it wasn't completely foreign where she's like in this big old like bed because it's still pretty big. But nah, she slept through.
What's your process? So do you just? I'm assuming you carry her for a little while, put her to sleep on one of you, and then you place her wherever she's gonna lay the rest of the time. Or do you just throw her in the bed and?
No. I wish. It's very rare that she falls asleep on her own.
Right.
But usually the way it goes down at night is that my girl usually will feed her, and then put her to sleep, and that's usually her. Like around 9, 10 the latest. 9 is usually the time. From that point on, she's like sleeping. The long stretch that she does, and then she'll wake up like one time, maybe. I mean, my girl could probably speak better to this because I'm not the one that wakes up, but she'll maybe wake up like around, I don't know, 3 or 4 in the morning, somewhere around there, maybe 3 in the morning, and then she'll wake up again for like a feeding around 5 or 6.
And that's not bad.
Yeah. So I mean, and then my girl says that I'm the one that has the magic touch in terms of putting her to sleep
quickly.
Because, well, a little quicker than my girl. I mean, my girl has the magic touch with the
breastfeeding. That Bacardi you put in the bottle, man.
Nah, I just be like the way I hold her. I don't know if it's hormonal where the baby senses the breast and wants to like automatically feed, and that's what she looks for in terms of my girl. Mm-hmm. And then with me, she knows she doesn't have that, so it's like I just hold her tight, and it's different arms, obviously. And then I just have my little thing that I pat her, and then sometimes I even sing to her. And like it's funny because I'll start like singing or humming, and she like just looks up and like gives me like a little grin, like okay.
Like, Daddy, stop that shit, or like, oh, I'm fucking.
No, and then like puts her in a trance,
So what kind of songs? So why don't you serenade us?
I freestyle, dude.
All right, let's hear it.
No, I ain't fucking singing for you.
Let me find out you were a vocalist, D.
Yeah. Sometimes I get my auto tunes out. Nah. Basically, what I do is I adapt rhythms of like mostly 80s pop hits and just throw my daughter's name in there and add daddy and mommy and love you. But it's the rhythm is some 80s pop hit, or it's like a Christmas Carol, or like stupid songs. Like
As long as it works.
That's dope.
Like party all the time. I do all the time. Like, Emmy all the time. Emmy.
Actually, I that was a party all the time was one of mine too. But it was potty all the time. So when we were doing the potty training, it was.
That's awesome. Yes.
And then he started singing that too.
My joint, actually, now we're talking about it. My joint continues to be "Good Night, Sweetheart." I don't remember who sings it, but it's like "Good night, sweetheart." Well,
Yeah.
Oh, the 50,
Like the doo-wop song.
Yeah. Doo-wop joint. And my kids love it, but I don't remix nothing. I just sing the hook over and over and over.
I completely. And sometimes I don't know what to say, so it's like if any normal person's listening, they're like, "This makes no sense what you're saying," like. But I mean, it's funny, man. My girl sometimes records it because it's a trip.
Yeah, we should put one at the end of the podcast, man. Come on.
Yeah, what's up?
She catches me. I mean, well, I'll see what she's cut so far.
So I was trying to figure out. Well, first of all, a quick update. You know how I'm having the pee-pee issues with the diapers overloading, right?
I thought you were having a pee-pee issue.
Yeah, no, I am.
I'm like, bro, get that checked out. Are you burning? I'm burning.
So I had to buy a fresh new pair of underwear because it wasn't working out. No, so we were using Huggies, and I had spoken to one of my old coworkers, and she was like, I think we might have talked about this. Getting a size bigger helped her, is what she told me, with her kid. So we tried that for a while. Still kind of the same as far as overflow. Then we switched to the Costco brand, the Kirkland brand, recently, and like I don't know, in a week where we might have got 2 dry days when she woke up, we now get about 5. So I believe the Kirkland brand, for whatever reason, and it's her normal size.
These are underwears?
No,
like pull-ups?
These are pull-ups. Well, no,
pull-ups,
actual
yeah.
regular diapers, not pull-ups.
Okay.
Shout out to Kirkland.
Word. Shout out to Kirkland.
Kirkland's alright, man. Kirkland got it going on.
Yo, I mean, everything I buy that's Kirkland tends to work out really well. So
Yo, Kirkland, man, we you can sponsor us, kid.
yeah, we'll come out to Washington State and everything. And,
Costco, what up?
do a Costco podcast. What's up?
Yeah.
We'll do a podcast live in the
Live
at
Costco.
Yo, that might be ill. Like next to all like the baby stuff.
Oh.
Real quick, based on what you're saying, my girl, she got onto this whole thing with getting. I didn't even know that they had these diapers, but nighttime diapers.
Mm.
So she says she's noticed that our daughter won't wake up. I don't want to say as frequently, but won't wake up as quickly.
Soaks it all up.
Yeah, and so she'll sleep for a longer stretch wearing those diapers. So my girl actually went out, I think, yesterday and bought those diapers specifically.
I think we tried them once upon a time. I can't remember exactly, but it didn't really pan out for us. Like I said, I honestly think my daughter is just like a phenom. She's an Olympic peer. Like that's the only thing I can really chalk it up to, because not a lot of parents really like agree or necessarily share the same experience that I'm.
What are you making her drink 2 gallons of water a day or something?
You know what I think it is. So my she's gonna be 3 in a couple months.
She's still breastfeeding, right?
Nah.
Oh no.
No, but she still.
Oh, there's people that they'll go on to like teens
till 7, 8 years old. Okay.
Right.
Hey, bro, whatever.
Right.
So she drinks. We still give her milk, right? And she's drinking that right before she goes to sleep every single time.
Oh, there it is.
So that's what we're thinking. So we're trying to eliminate that from the routine in order to, try to get through the night without that problem. But it's got to be that. At this stage of the game, that's the only thing we can think of.
And do you have the issue of when you're changing her diaper, she pees also? Like once the diaper's off?
Nah, I mean really early. Like,
my daughter does that from time to time.
Like around the first 6 months or so, we would see that happen every so often. But But the funnest one, and this is something that my mother would share with me, like when I was a little kid. You know, boys, because we have penises, like it just, I don't know, it's more direct when we pee versus the girl. Like the girl's like a little spout type of thing, and then the kid get long range action. So I would wet everybody, and then my son, when he would go at it, like it was like, oh shit, you know, a fire hose.
I think we just lost our Kirkland sponsorship.
So that was record time.
I'm assuming you guys did you get the book now that I actually remember the name of it and the author and the title?
No.
Or did you forward to your significant
Talking
other?
about the potty training one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I forwarded to Karina. Somebody who was I talking to? Oh, Paul, aka Weird Thoughts, aka Drink Champ Sports. He says he has a gripe to pick with you about that book.
Oh, for real?
He's like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. he's like, I'm gonna be polite, but I'm gonna have to say, get the fuck out of here with that book. That shit is bullshit. He doesn't believe it.
He could have saved himself a lot of money, man. 5 kids.
Yo,
come on now.
Real kid.
Yeah, I mean,
tell Paul we'll have that combo. Shortly.
Yeah, I told him we're gonna have him on. We should have him maybe next week if we want. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm down. That'd be fun.
I told him he'd be a family guest from the beginning.
He's coming with some fire. He and I spoke real quick, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not holding back. I'm gonna keep it 100. I don't care."
Yeah, he's got a lot. Like right now, he's going through it with the youngest of the first 3 daughters. Mm. He has another daughter and a son from his other girl, but the youngest of the 3 has a boyfriend, and I don't think told him. Like just got like a boyfriend. She's like, I think she's 15, 16. Yeah. So he was telling me there's been some tension there, and then the other daughters chimed in because he was mean to her about it because he was upset that she didn't divulge the information that she had a boyfriend. He had to find out or found out later, and so the other ones are like, you got mad at us too, blah blah blah, and like he's just going through it with that. So he could bring that to the table. Having teenage well, I mean, the oldest have boyfriend stuff yet or not yet?
Who are you talking to?
You, Manny?
You fucking crazy?
Who else am I talking to?
It's coming, man.
She's 11, right?
She's 11. Yeah, she's 11.
Yeah.
Chill, son. Don't be wishing that on me right now.
I mean, has she expressed any interest in boys at all?
Nah, she just plays ball with them and whoops their ass. Like that's the only. She's kind of tomboyish in that regard. Like she finds girls to be kind of boring because like they just sit in the cut. And, like for instance, they'll go to a party, and then even at this age, they'll just sit in the corner looking at their cell phones and like chit chat and gossip or whatever. And she's like, "Yo, we're here to party, right? Let's go dance." And then she'd be the only girl like really on the dance floor, and then everybody else is just like standing around. Mm. So she's kind of. That's her only, not dancing, but just like playing sports in particular. That's right. Her like where she interacts with guys.
Yeah.
In any other, not relationship. Well, God, I can't even talk about it.
That's crazy, man. Having a daughter. I mean, I don't know. What do you like, Kay? Having a son. What do you think it's the same worry of him growing up and then having relationships? Obviously, I don't think it is for guys, to be quite honest.
No,
like,
I don't think
it's a girl. You're more, because we're guys, and we know as guys how we thought and acted. So we're like, fuck, they're gonna encounter people who are like us back in the days,
Yeah, no, I don't think it's. I don't think it's the same at all. I think when I'm thinking about having these conversations with him later on, it's more like guiding him to, like basically guiding him to. Spend time with someone who's actually going to be nice to you as opposed to wasting your time with
no gold diggers
folks that, girls that are going to be a pain in the ass, or he has to, they're going to be super moody and all that kind of stuff. Just like the stuff you go through when you're kind of trials and tribulations of
no kikis
moving around that way. So I don't know. I think with the girl, it's a totally different scenario. Although, I find it weird, like my son's in kindergarten, and there's already a bunch of girls always talking, coming over and hugging him and saying they want to marry him and trying to hold his hand. And this is kindergarten. I see some of the dads, like when we're doing drop off
They're
or
probably
they're
like,
lining
"Oh,
up.
damn."
Yeah, dads are pissed off. They're
They
looking around
sizing you
like,
up.
That happens with my godson too. Like Choco, which you've met.
yeah.
He's same thing. He has like little girls that are like, oh, this is my future husband, or this is my boyfriend, or stuff like that. And it sounds cute now, but
Right.
Yeah. When you talk about like, is it the same? How you feel about your son versus your daughter when it comes to relationships. Same thing's happening to my son in kindergarten. Kay, like his name comes out of the mouths of all the girls in the classroom, and also all the boys. Like everyone in the classroom mentions him when they go back home. Like we were just at his school this week they had this thing where the kids wrote like a story about a place they've been to, and then they made it into a little book, 3-page book. And they, parents would come, the kids would read the book to you, and then they would autograph it for you. And it was kind of like a little, book signing kind of session. So in that moment, like 5 different parents came to us. Oh, are you his son, his dad? I'm like, yeah. Oh my God, my son's always talking. Oh, my daughter. Da, 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 da. And my wife was getting tight. Every time the parent of a girl came up to her, she was like, for real? Like, are you serious? And they 2 days before, she was at a party, like my son's first birthday party from class. And at that place too, mad girls, because it was a girl's birthday party. So mad other girls, their parents were coming to her and saying the same thing. So she was tight. So and I'm like, yo, what's the big deal? She's like, that's my son. You can't take him away. Like she felt like they were like taking him away.
Oh, okay,
like,
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Shit.
I get it.
So they feel it in I guess another way.
Yeah.
right.
What we were talking about with the girls.
Sam, cuffing season starts early.
Apparently, who knew, man?
Sucks.
Jeez, man.
I mean, I
Who
always
knew?
tell the story like, I was in like first grade when I first tongued down a girl.
Whoa.
And then everybody I told to, they didn't believe me. And then the girl she provoked me. It was kind of like, we were in the school bus and she just like grabbed my face and I was like, all right. and I just feel her tongue kind of like a little fish in my mouth. And then she lived in the building next door. So she starts telling everybody on the block, and I'm telling my friends, and they're not believing me. And I'm not really. It's not like I'm like, yo, I'm the man, son. I just kissed this chick. I was confused. I was just like, yo.
Yeah, first grade. That's what are you, 6 or 7?
mad
Yeah, that's
young.
That's
Yo, I
young,
was
man.
6.
Yeah,
Mad young.
yeah.
No, I'm not, by no means am I condoning it. I'm just saying like, when we say like shit starts early, like I remember it started pretty damn early for me.
No,
too.
no, I remember other kids getting down in 6th grade because I remember that's when we had like our first
That's
like
6th grade.
dance. 6th grade.
No,
Yeah.
6th grade.
Man, he's talking first grade.
I'm talking first.
Holy
grade.
shit.
I'm talking 6 years old.
Oh, never mind. I'm talking about 6th grade is when things started going
son,
down.
6th grade. Nah. Yeah.
Damn, 1st grade. I don't know, man.
No, what the hell are we thinking
I was just
about?
worried about the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip, man. What you doing over there?
Yeah, so she broke me down, I guess, or into that world.
All right, you need to talk to somebody.
Maybe, I don't know, bro. I might have to call Syph and get his shrink. Jeez,
Talk to Paul.
Yeah.
I might get him angry.
Paul be like, yo, I was in preschool, yo. And,
Oh my god, we definitely got to talk to him next week, bro. Now
Nah,
that
it'll
this whole
be
thing
funny.
is fresh on his mind. Like we got to get him.
Yeah, no, we do. Hopefully he divulges because I know it's something that hit him hard.
Yeah. So we have a guest today that I can see if he's available now. If you guys want to take that tour now?
Let's do it.
That's right. Cool. So with us today we've got Juan Vidal. He's a new author with his first published book, Rap Dad. But you might have seen some of this stuff on NPR, Vibe Magazine, and a host of other publications out there in the world. So Juan, man, thank you for joining us on Fatherhoods.
And congratulations on the book, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, guys. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Writing a book is not an easy task, so I definitely commend you on that one.
Appreciate
Barely
it,
get
yeah.
a haiku out.
Oh man, yeah, it's a grind.
So I mean, we kind of took a kind of a quick tour through the book, and there's a lot of you have a lot there, right? And I know this is your first book, and you kind of go through the different phases of your life and how fatherhood has impacted you. Can you kind of get into a little bit? Because for us, we talk about fatherhood from a bunch of different perspectives because we've got kids of varying ages and numbers of kids that differ. How do you, as far as your own personal fatherhood story, your own children, how's that dynamic currently for you?
Yeah, so I'm a father of 4 actually. So it's a grind. It's a lot of work, but it's a joy also. I've been married for next year will be 15 years.
Wow.
So I got married pretty young. I'm actually 37. I got married, early 20s, and had our first when I was about 26, 27, something like that. So yeah, there's 6 of us, man. So we got a wild and loud house. My wife is actually out right now, so hopefully nobody runs down to the basement with a bloody nose. Because that's how it be sometimes.
Right.
Hey Juan, so from reading your book, you've got it's 3 sons, 1 daughter?
Yeah. I have my oldest is 10, the second boy is 8, and then my daughter is 6, and then the youngest is 4. So they're all pretty much like 2 years apart.
And what's your big noticeable difference between raising boys versus girls?
Man, I could get in trouble for this one.
Don't worry, we
boys,
get in trouble all the time.
Right.
I mean, boys is just like, just shake it off. You fall down, shake it off. You'll be, my daughter, it's for to some extent, it's the same thing, because I try to not she is my princess and all that. You know what I mean? Like how fathers are with their daughters and stuff. But I try not to go too far down that lane, and I try to really be tough with her the way I am with my boys, in the sense of like, oh, shake it off, you're fine. You know what I mean? Mm. But girls are definitely more of a challenge in some ways, because they're more emotional in certain ways. So some things is just like my wife has to handle that, because I don't understand what she might be going through, even though she's 6 and almost 7. There's certain things that happen that I'm just like, yeah, this might not be the best for me to handle. Like she has to step in for that, so it's definitely a different dynamic. But it's all good at the end of the day.
Before we brought you on, we were talking about the differences, if there's differences on how you would treat sons versus daughters in terms of like the future of them having relationships and first boyfriends, first girlfriends, whatever. Do you think there's a difference in the way you'd approach the boys versus the girl?
Man, I think so. I mean, I actually had this conversation with my sons the other day, because, they're 8 and 10, which is young. But I think about when I was 10, like 5th grade, and like I already had girls that I was like, scoping out, to an extent, to like.
Well, Manny was making out at 1st grade.
There you go. See, that's terrifying as a father. Yeah, because I mean, I to keep it 100, like I knew kids that lost their virginity in like 4th grade and 3rd grade,
right?
And that's insane to me. So, and it's scary. And that was back then. That's like late 80s, So think about how crazy it is now.
Social media and all that.
With social media and all that stuff, like what they're exposed to is it's more racy at an even younger age. So, but to get to the question, I mean, I was just having a conversation with my boys the other day about just how you treat girls and women, and that you always treat them with respect and stuff. Because I can't remember what we were watching, but it wasn't anything like too crazy. But someone said something rude to a female in the show, and they started asking questions and stuff. So it kind of opened up, a lot of good conversation, kind of like in that realm. But I haven't had to deal with any like boyfriend, girlfriend stuff as of yet. I know they do talk about like girls that they have crushes on, and they have like 3 girlfriends. My 10-year-old talks about that he has 3 girlfriends, but he just means crushes,
Right.
So haven't had to deal with too much of that stuff yet. I think it's kind of dealing with some of that stuff as it comes along, to an extent.
Are you fearful or like, well, yeah, fearful of when that day comes for your boys versus your girls? Like, is there a difference in your mind?
Yeah, like typically us guys are worried about our daughters, and their boyfriends and, stuff like that.
Yeah, man, I think I'm learning as I go, and I don't think I think there is a level of fear there, but I think a lot of it has to do with like how we're preparing them from a young age. Like, I'll be honest, like I had to have like, which quote unquote, the sex talk with my boys a lot younger than I thought I was gonna have to, because they were coming home asking questions, and this was a few years ago. They were like 6 and 8 at the time, I think it was, and I was not expecting that I was going to have that kind of a conversation so early, but they were just making all these like comments and asking questions. I was like, well, obviously kids in school are talking about these things. So I brought it up to a friend of mine who has boys that are now like teenagers, and he was like, yo, I had a conversation with my kids when they're like 5 and 6, and I was like, nah, that's crazy. Like,
that's
and I was
insane.
like, no, and I like refused to believe it, but he's like, either you do it or somebody else is going to do it. So like, I really learned a lot from that. And it just made me realize that our kids know a lot more than we think they know.
Yeah, that's true.
And if we don't like nip that stuff in the butt early, like somebody else is going to do that work. And like, I don't want that to happen. They're going to hear things on their own, and it's up to me and my wife to like address that kind of stuff and make sure that we're giving them the information that they need so that they can make smart decisions.
That actually reminds me of something. So my 11-year-old daughter, she comes home from school with like all these what she believes to be facts about random shit, not like sex, but it could be history, for instance, and she'll kick whatever it is that they spoke about in school, like again her friends, and then I'll be like, yo, that's nothing like what really happened, and let me explain to you how it really went down, and yada yada.
And she doesn't believe you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, you know what's crazy? Well, I mean, I was like that too, I guess, when I was a kid. But like, but now we got technology at our fingertips. So now I go Google some shit and be like, yo, but check it. Don't listen to me. Look at where it's at. But trust that I know what I'm talking about. So, in the same vein, you talk about educating your kids at an early, whenever that curiosity kind of presents itself. It is your best bet, as uncomfortable as it is, because my wife has had to have conversations about, reproduction, for instance, with all of my kids, well, 2 of the 3 kids, because my youngest is 2 years old already, and you kick it to them in like pseudo layman's terms, so they're not super confused, but you kind of have to lay that foundation when curiosity strikes. And that's all I have to say about that.
But listen, I think the question that I'm trying to figure out is how you, if we approach boys versus our daughters completely different. I only have a daughter, so I'm asking, whoever has both, or how Kay is is thinking about handling it with his son, because typically us men are more brutes than women. I feel like the mother's probably gonna have a more balanced approach for either or. Where us guys are gonna just be like, like I said, we know what we were in our teenage lives, what we did, how we thought of women, and what might have done. So we're fearful of that, and it reflects on how we'll probably try to protect our daughter, or and stuff like that. But maybe with the boys, we'll be like, yeah, go ahead, go do your thing. We won't be as protective. Now, is that right? Is that wrong? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, how do you approach that?
I mean, I think Juan hit it on the head. And Juan, don't let me speak for you. Like, the preparation that you talked about a little while ago with respect to respecting women and that dialogue that you have with your kids, I'm assuming that's kind of you laying the foundation as to how they should think about handling relationships and females in general.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. It's laying down that foundation, because the questions are gonna come, and like you just gotta be prepared for it. And like this is like really a timely conversation, to be honest, because just yesterday, my oldest came home with like this thing from school where they're going to be having like a sex education talk at his school in January. And like you have to like sign the form and say like if you want your kids to participate in it or whatever. And he's like, he really is like, really wants to participate in it. He's telling me that he has a lot of questions. And I'm like, yo, you don't have to wait for like some formal thing at your school. Like, we're always here to like talk about that stuff and answer those questions. But it just goes to show that like there's like a hunger for like that information. So yeah, like a lot of it is really just education. Like, and yeah, I mean, I had to get so deep as to telling them what sex was, like literally like the act of it when he was like 8 or 7. He's like, you did that with mom?
Oh man.
Like it was that real, because the stuff that he was asking, I was like, I can't hold anything back. I mean, you have to have definitely some boundaries and you don't get too crazy with it, but like the basic information just has to be presented to them in a way that they can understand so they can use that information, you know?
Hey Juan, did your dad have that talk with you? And kind of going into your book a little bit, and this kind of a two-pronged question. So that, and also, you know, mentioning the way you're treating, you know, teaching your sons about respect for women. You know, in your book, you mentioned that your dad was quite a womanizer, and you know, that type of thing. That have a strong influence on how you're teaching your sons about relationships and women?
Yeah, from my own dad, I learned everything not to do. So it was just that, this is the complete reverse. I mean, yeah, like I grew up in a household. It was, you know, my father, my uncles, and it was just like the Latin machismo, where it was just like men, you know, in a sense, like conquering women, you know what I mean? And it was like, I saw that stuff from a very young age. I mean, I remember my dad even brought me like on a date one time with a girl, because it was just me and him, and he, you know, it wasn't supposed to be a situation where I knew he was on a date, but like years later, I realized exactly what the setting was. And it was like, he brought me to like a bar during the day with like some blonde woman. And I'm just like, I remember that stuff, you know? So like, as I grew up, I had to make like a real conscious effort to not be that type of a person. Even though, you know, going through a certain period of my life, I wanted to be, right. I had friends that had all the girls, and they had, you know, all that kind of stuff that you want when you're like in middle school and high school, like that braggadocious mentality. But like, that was never really me necessarily. And not to judge anyone who kind of went through that type of stuff or was that character at a point in their life. I think we all have to go through our own experiences, but I felt like I had to kind of make a conscious decision early on to kind of not be certain things. And not to say that I was like this all knowing wise being, but I mean, there was some stuff that I just would not allow myself to do. Even stuff like drugs, like I would never go further than smoking weed, because I saw what hard drugs did to a family and how it broke down the family structure. So like, there was just certain conscious decisions that I made early on that I was not going to cross certain lines. You know what I mean? So yeah, I learned everything not to do.
Right.
I always wonder, because you know, to me, it's like a coin flip in you know how I look at things. You grow up. You know, you hear this a lot in hip hop, right? Or I guess not in hip hop particularly, but in urban settings, the cycle repeats itself, right? And
right.
Whatever that situation might be for those people. And so in this particular case, and you know, us three, actually all four of us here, have had some sort of like missing father figure to some degree. And so, you know, for me, and the outcome has been pretty positive, you know, among us here. But it's like a coin flip to me. Like it could easily be a copy paste of whatever you went through, magnified in your own, you know, existence. It's like you mentioned you made a conscious effort to go the other way. Was there ever any conflict in your world where you might have easily fallen into the same cycle that your father kind of perpetuated?
Oh man, absolutely. Like, and I talk about some of this in the book and stuff, but like I was in a music group, and I was, you know, full-time touring, and this was before I was writing full-time and stuff. But my group that I was in at the time, like we got signed to Universal. We were like traveling, touring, and it was just in our group. It was me, my best friend, and his wife. So it was like we were like Latin Fugees as far as like the makeup of the group or whatever. But that to be honest, like having a female in the group, especially the wife of one of the members, worked a lot in our favor, especially in this particular area. Had it been just me and my boy on the road, married, you know what I mean, on the road, just
to no good at that
going
point.
from city to city, like it could have very easily played out different, because at the end of the day, we're all men and temptation is what it is. And it would have not been too far-fetched to say that I could have ended up in a similar situation. But yeah, man, I thank God every day that there was a female in our group, because she was there to really like intercept when like someone was looking at us in a certain type of way. You know, like a man on a platform or a woman on a platform is something to be desired in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's attractive and there's an energy to it. You're rocking a concert or whatever it is, like people are drawn to like that magnetism almost, you know. So like there could have been a lot of situations where things would have played out differently. So yeah, like there were a lot of situations where I definitely could have fallen into that, but I tried my best to kind of like turn a blind eye to some of that stuff if I saw someone looking at me like interested in any way, which not to say that was often or anything, but like, you know, a couple times, you know, I know that something could have happened. But I was married and I had like, you know, 1 or 2 kids at the time. And yeah, you have to like flee from those situations and like not put yourself in that environment.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story here is all these dude crews, get yourself some females in there and it'll help things out.
Right.
Yes.
I think we all probably would have escaped a lot of headaches if we would have
Yeah,
had some
man,
females in the
absolutely.
crew.
Like that's a good balance.
Yeah, man.
What was the name of the group that you were part of?
I'll tell you guys off the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh shit.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
Witness protection or something?
Keeping it low key.
No, I knew that y'all were gonna ask that, and I don't mention it in the book also because like, and it's not like for any reason other than just like separating the two worlds in a sense, you know, like there's some people that don't mind like kind of living kind of in the middle of those two things, but because I don't like necessarily do that anymore, like it's like you want to be, I guess,
It's a
in a
closed
sense,
chapter.
it's like taking, huh?
It's a closed chapter, right?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of a closed chapter, and it's like there's people that have been like rappers that have like put out books, and it's like sometimes they're not necessarily taken seriously as writers or as authors, in a lot of ways. And that's not to say that's the case for everybody, but I've seen that happen, and I would never want that to be a thing necessarily. It might sound weird. It's just like a little quirk, I guess.
No, I get it.
Yeah, no.
I've seen Stranger Things, so I'm not. That doesn't faze us. I respect that.
Going back quickly to the coin flip of you know, either repeating the cycle or breaking the cycle. A question similar to that is, so if you've got a dad in your life who's, you know, whatever, they're not doing the right thing or they're not so great at being a dad. You know, what's better, having them in your life and they're kind of, you know, someone you're wishing maybe wasn't in your life, or not having a dad present at all? What do you guys think is that's a tough one.
That is tough, man.
I don't know. Why don't we let our guest start and then we can go around the room?
Wow. Yeah, that's tough because on one hand there's a void, and that void could make you go down a certain path because you're trying to fill that void with other things to kind of like fill that empty space. And then on the other side, you're just seeing everything that's wrong about a certain person. So like, I don't know that there's necessarily a right or wrong answer. I think it's just like, it's whatever situation you find yourself in. Yeah. Like you figure out a way to navigate that path and make the best of it. Like my mom got me remarried, and my stepdad is somebody I knew since I was like 4 years old. But my stepdad's son, he grew up without a mom because his mom passed away. So like we both grew up in some sense without one of the parents there. So I really just think it just depends on kind of the the specific situation. I don't know if there's a right or wrong.
To me,
agreed.
And I don't think it's. I mean, this. I think this is a saying, and it might be super cliche, but they say like, it's better to know the evil you know versus the evil you don't know. Or I could be
Yeah.
evil could be the wrong term, but basically it's saying like the known bad is likely better than the bad you never knew.
Right.
It's
Well, like Juan, in your case, you seeing the things that you didn't like that your dad was doing taught you, the right, or at least the path for you that you wanted to take. So you saw the stuff you didn't want to do and made you, taught you what you wanted to do in a sense. So that was
I think
beneficial.
exactly. I think things can be taught in the absence of a person as well as when they're,
I believe
because
that.
my father was like a ghost in the sense that he would kind of like appear one moment and then kind of be gone the next. So it's like he was there, but he wasn't there. You know what I mean? So it's like it's hard to even put him in one category. Is he a father that was around, just ruining everything, or was he just someone that was just not there at all, or very very sparse way and ruining everything? So he kind of like fit in that middle of like he's like this apparition that just like pops up in and out.
And every situation, like we said, is different. Like some situations where there's larger families, they might step in these places, where there's that absence and that void. And, and then also the individual child might, it might affect them in different ways. One might, like in this situation where you see the things you don't want to become, and some might absorb that and become that, like you just never know. It's just
It's
a different situation. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Going
That's
back
somber.
into your on a higher note, let's talk a little bit about fatherhood and hip hop. So I mean, in your book, you really tout those two as pinnacles for, I guess, a successful life in your case, correct?
Yeah, I would say that the two definitely like converge in my life in a lot of ways. I mean, because I had a father that was not around or hardly around, it's like I look to these other kind of, I guess you can call them even authority figures, even if they weren't necessarily that. It was like these peripheral father figures that I like gleaned lessons from. They were more like older brothers, if we're being honest, because at this, when I'm in, early 90s listening to Nas, he's only like, not very many years older than me, but it's like you're gleaning these lessons from these people that are on this pedestal. So I look to them in a sense for like direction, but at the end of the day, I saw like a lot of the braggadocious stuff in hip hop, especially from like a lot of these younger cats, was like, it was all like fear. It was like masking their own like past and like insecurities and stuff, because a lot of my heroes, if you want to call them that, really came from similar homes as mine in the sense that they grew up without a parent in the house, so because I took a lot from hip hop, like the older I got, just the more I saw kind of how these two paths and these two things like just converged a lot in my life. And now, like, I mean, we're part of a generation now, just talking about like the rap dad and just the whole idea of a rap dad. Like we're part of a generation now that's of parents that are about as old as hip hop itself, right? Like, late 30s, 40s, you know what I mean? Which is about how old hip hop is. It's like, so we're this generation that's now raising kids at a time when hip hop is the most dominant art form and most dominant, youth movement in the world, not just our country, but the entire world, And I know everybody in this chat, I'm sure, has been overseas and been to a lot of places, and just like the influence that hip hop has, the way that it informs the world at large, like it's second to none, and it's like the people that practice hip hop, at least like the old school heads, or if you want to call them that are, like Jay-Z and Nas and these people, like now they're parents, so it's like, it's inspiring to see the way that they raise their own kids and stuff. And especially with social media and stuff, it's like you can't find any interview with like someone like Chance the Rapper, who's a younger father, where he doesn't talk about fatherhood. It's like this badge of honor now that people are kind of carrying and waving and stuff like that. So it's really, really dope to see, because it's such an influential art form. The more that people talk about fatherhood, the more like it opens up these kinds of conversations.
So you mentioned this in your book about RZA, the conversation that you had with him, especially about fatherhood. But I was curious as to, what a little bit more in the meat of that conversation and what it was that really kind of inspired you and put a positive battery in your back after that combo.
Yeah, I mean, so I went down there to do a story that I got invited to go to the space called the Chess House at the World Chess Hall of Fame. RZA was going to be there doing like just speaking in schools and like doing school assemblies and going to prisons and stuff. And that's kind of what I was there for. So I did that story and did everything I needed to do for that. But like while we had kind of time, I guess downtime, like I wanted to talk to him about fatherhood and stuff because I had listened to, I think an interview with him and like Tavis Smiley, and he was talking about fatherhood, and he has a son named Understanding. Wow. Like literally his son's name is Understanding. And I thought that was like, that was like the craziest thing to me. And so like I brought that up and that I listened to that interview and just started to just talk to him just kind of casually about stuff. And he was real attentive, and he was just like a dope person. Like he's somebody I could just listen to, for like a long time. Just the way that he speaks is just like, he sounds just like the way that he raps, Right. And I just remember just sitting on like a stoop or whatever, just like kind of picking his brain. And it was just cool to see the way that he showed interest, just asking about like what my sons did, what my daughter did, like what they like to do. And it wasn't like an incredibly deep conversation, but I think that what affected me the most was that this is like a hero of mine since I was a kid, and him showing interest in a stranger and in the way that this stranger is raising his kids. I think it just meant a lot. You know what I mean? Like he could have just easily
definitely
just
made
gave
him,
like,
made him human, right?
Exactly. Like,
and it could have gone a whole other direction that would have been horrible.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he could have just given like these surface answers, but like he was real, like I said, attentive and asking questions himself. And I just thought that was real dope. So it wasn't to like make much of a simple conversation, but I think kind of what it did, kind of below the surface, I think was what meant more to me than the actual content of that conversation. Because it was a real simple conversation, Right. Yeah.
So in light of, this whole thing that happened with Drake where he was allegedly hiding his kid and all that stuff that came about, you earlier you mentioned like parenting and specifically fatherhood being kind of a badge of honor for a lot of these folks in the industry now. You see little instances where it's not that, right? Where it might be even considered shameful to some of these folks or a sign of weakness, it seems like. So what's your take? Because even more recently, and Kay, you shared this with us earlier, YBN Almighty Jay recently basically came out and showed the world, I think it might have been today.
Yeah. Yep.
He got a kid, right? And he's, 19 years of age now?
Yeah. What was interesting about it was that, he did this long video about it on the way to see his son. And well, it was interesting because he's a young guy, right? He's 19 and he's talking that, he was kind of scared about the whole situation and he was trying to keep it under wraps because he didn't really know like how people were going to take to it. And that seems kind of foreign to me. But then I guess to like a 19-year-old kid, then, that's a real thing. Right. And then to all of a sudden turn around and make in his head think, all right, no, this is a positive thing and I'm going to be proud of this. And, that's cool, right? That's something that's cool. But then the flip side is just the whole social media side of it and making because you're a public figure and now you're making a public proclamation and showing people that you're a parent. It's like, I guess some people don't care, but then this whole generation of, everyone kind of just wanting to know everything about you does care. So that's a whole, to me, that's
like
what
a whole
is or
different...
isn't
exploitation too of your family.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just the world we live in now,
Yeah, it is. Like I have are you guys familiar with Lecrae?
Oh
yeah. Yeah.
He's a friend of mine, and he doesn't post pictures of his kids on social media at all, and that's because the internet is mean. Like and it's like some people just don't want to expose their kids, to certain things, and I can completely understand that. Like I can't necessarily creep into the mind of a 19-year-old that has a kid all of a sudden, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's something that I don't understand, especially with a lot of fame. Like I think that it's easy for a lot of people to kind of sit back and like judge like really, really, really famous people. But you have no idea how you would cope with that level of fame. Like just kind of a sidebar, but like I see people like criticize like someone like Justin Bieber a lot for like messing up and doing wild things and stuff like that. But yo, that kid became famous
it's
when
all
he was
part of
so
creative.
young. Like had I been famous when I was like 14, 15, yo, I would have gone absolutely crazy. Like,
Yeah.
so like when people like pretend to understand that level of fame or what you would do if that kind of temptation like presents itself in your life, yo, like that's just wild to me. So like, I mean, the Drake thing like that you brought up, I mean, he says in the line, you know, in the album, like I wasn't hiding whatever, I was hiding the world from my kid. And I don't know what the motivation was necessarily, but like I do understand that line because it kind of goes back to what I said about my friend Lecrae, is like hiding the world from your kid because you want to protect them in certain ways. Especially again with that level of notoriety and with that much attention on you constantly, and like everything that you do, people are scrutinizing it. And it's like, if anybody says something about my kids online, like it's over. Like I'm going to jail, you know? So like, why put yourself in that situation? Well,
it's funny you said about the success. I mean, because Jay in this video, he does, you know, he's talking about it. It's almost like he's talking to himself about just kind of figuring out what, you know, what he's thinking. And he mentioned, you know, he mentions that his level of success has come so quickly, and then he's got a kid so quickly on top of that. So that's got to be a lot for a 19-year-old.
A lot of
man.
pressure, yeah, for sure.
That is, man. I mean, even I became a dad when I was 24, 25. No, what was it? 26, maybe. I don't know. What, something like that. 19, like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
especially like when you're taking off and you're just like blowing up, you're just getting started. Like that's something to really like grapple with. I think Chuck D had his first kid when Public Enemy was like just really getting big, maybe around their first album too. Like that's a lot to deal with when, especially for people that have like a lot of professional ambition. And that's some of the stuff I talk about in the book as well, is like balancing, you know, personal responsibility with like professional ambition. And it's like, as a creative, it's a burden to get your work done. You know, there's like a lot of
feel guilty,
depression, and there's suffering involved, and you need to like write this or paint this or record this and make this because it's something inside you that's begging to get out. Whatever the motivation is, maybe it's to get the respect of your peers, or maybe it's just because of this hunger inside you to create. Now you balance that with being there for a family and having to provide and being a consistent presence. Like you mix those things together, and it's really, really, really difficult.
Tough. Yeah. And finding the inspiration to be a creative, especially if that part of you is what is bringing in the revenue, and then finding that balance. And it like Kay said, you feel guilty because it's like you need to be inspired to create. Yeah. But to be inspired, sometimes it takes you to be detached from your family to a degree.
Yeah, man.
And it's like terrible. It's like you know, if any normal human being is going to feel terrible about that, but it's like, how do you have to do certain things.
Right, because you're being you're being selfish in a sense, because you have to go inside to get to get creative and create, right? So
we have to be honest with ourselves. This world, this entertainment industry in general, is a selfish business. You know what I'm saying? Like, like in order to present yourself out there, you have to have an ego of some sort. Well, big or small, it depends. Obviously the big ones is where you don't want to go, but in order to say to yourself, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to put myself in front of a bunch of people confidently, you have to feed your ego to believe that you can do that. Mm-hmm. And, and all of that is counterintuitive to raising a family. And, to me, it's like counter that part of your life. So it's like such a crazy balance. It's almost like a Jekyll and Hyde thing at a point.
It really is, yo. You really like you put not a mask in the sense of a facade, but a mask in the sense like I'm putting my business hat on and this is my family hat. You become a complete different person. Like hip hop it's a blood sport. It's like,
exactly.
People literally have died like for this stuff, and it's all, predicated on like what this was built on, the way that it started, and it was a voice for people that didn't have a voice, and it was competitive, and it very much will always be that. So like it's not always conducive to like packing a lunch for your kid and dropping them off at school and changing diapers. Like those things are, in a lot of ways, they're like polar opposites, but I think that they're merging more and more. Again, back to what I was saying before about like people like Chance the Rapper that are and DJ Khaled and different people that are super vocal about themselves as parents, and not just fathers but mothers as well.
Right.
So it's like these things are like starting to kind of blend in more and more, where like the older rappers get, for example, like the more they're talking about like family stuff,
Right.
Not every rapper, because they're, like Pusha T is not gonna, talk about like that's
Pusha T
rap,
did talk about, he did mention something about like if you're not taking care of your kids, and don't even fuck with me. Like,
absolutely, like there'll be that stuff, but it's like he's not gonna change his entire persona.
Right.
So like these things will like blend like more and more as like the people in rap like become parents and get older, because like you're not gonna talk about certain things forever.
I mean, at the end of the day, hip hop is growing up, and it's inevitable. It's happening. We're all living it, and we have to take it in a place. And I say we as the generation that we're from, living it and working in it. Our job is to make sure that we help hip hop mature gracefully.
Well, I think to your point, like, I think it's pretty cool that we can see, a young rapper from the young generation, Jay, who's 19,
right?
He's making a splash online by being proud of, being a dad. So I think that's I think that's a sign, a positive sign in the right direction.
Which, mind you, it's different from before, because people used to be proud of being dads, but in the negative sense, like, I got like 10 kids,
right.
10 baby mamas, that's what we needed to be changed. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I think is the positive side of that.
Maury Povich ruined everything.
Right.
So Juan, this is your first book. Are you already thinking about the next one, or like where's your head at as far as continuing down the path of being an author?
Yeah, I want to do different things. I plan to have a screenplay done by the end of the year, and kind of started the second book. Kind of still trying to figure out what the second book is going to be. But yeah, man, like I mean, like I imagine you guys are, from what I know about you guys, like it's always on to the next thing, and it's like always, what am I going to make next? What am I going to build next? And and I found out. And I realized about myself, because I've been a writer for a while now, but it was always just 1,000 words here, 2,000 words. It's shorter things. Like an 80,000 word book is a completely different thing, but it's a marathon that I enjoyed having, like a larger goal that I'm running towards, and I feel like it's like that first tattoo, like you want to get more now. It's
right.
It's kind of similar to that. It's like, now what other big project am I going to tackle? So yeah, like I'm still trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to land next, but it's going to be in a lot of different areas. So yeah, man.
Dope. And so Rap That is the name of the book. It's available pretty much anywhere dope books are sold, I'll say.
Yeah.
Where can people reach you if they want to find out more, or just what do you want to plug here as we wrap things up?
Yeah, man, just get the book, Rap Dad, a story of family and the subculture that shaped a generation. But yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram. It's Juan Love, ITS Juan Love.
Dope.
Yeah.
well, Juan, man, thank you, and we really appreciate the conversation. Keep doing your thing, man, and we hope to run into you at some point in the future.
Yeah, congrats.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you, man. Really enjoyed it. Appreciate y'all.
All right, man. Peace.
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 Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the bell.